All right, Daf Tzadi Aleph, Thursday's Daf. And let's pick it up on the fifth wide line of Tzadi Amud Beis at the two dots. B'yarech shel yamin u'b'yarech shel smile. So the Mishnah says clearly that there is an Isser of Gid Anasha on both Gidin, on the left side of the animal and on the right side of the animal. B'zok the Gemara, Mas Nisan, Delek Rabbi Yehuda. Who's Rabbi Yehuda? Ditanya, Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, Ein Anayeg Elav Achas. The Gid Anasha is only negate to one of these different thighs of the animal. V'hadas machras is shel yamin. And logically, we should say that's the right side. It's kind of an odd thing for a Tana to say. So Iboilhu, what does he mean? Mifshat Pshita Leil Rabbi Yehuda. Is it really a Pasha to Rabbi Yehuda that it's on the right side, Umay Das? And what does it mean when he says his Das is machras? It's Das Taira, which doesn't mean how we use the expression Das Taira Heintig, but rather Das Taira means the Taira itself says that the right Gid is the one that's Usr. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda himself is Mesupik which one of these two Gidin is what the Taira Asr, Umay Das, and when it says that the Das is machras, that's just Das Naita, that his own Svara leads him to believe that the right one is the one that's Usr, but he's not really 100% sure. In other words, there's still a matziv of Safek here, and it won't be Usr b'teres Vadai. So now we're going to spend a little time trying to bring a Raya. This that Rabbi Yehuda says the right one, is it b'teres Vadai or b'teres Safek? Toshma, bring a Raya from the Mishnah Masechta Pesachim. Ha'atzames v'agidim v'naiser, the bones, sinews, and all the leftovers of the carbon Pesach. Yisrafu l'shisha Usr, you have to burn it on the 16th of Nisan. In other words, you shecht it on Erev Pesach on the 14th of Nisan, and you eat it on the night of the 15th. And if you don't finish it, it becomes Usr al nicer and has to be burned. So even though the meat is Usr al nicer on the 15th, you don't burn it that day because the 15th is Yom Tif. So you burn it on the 16th, which is the first day of Chol HaMoed. V'havinan ba hanigidi maya videtayu. What's going to be with the gidin that the Mishnah is talking about? Because that was part of the list. Hoatzomos v'hagidin v'hanaiser. So what gidin are we talking about? Igid basar. If it's regular gidin, meaning the edible parts, so lech linu. So you should eat it on the 15th. Why are you burning it on the 16th? V'idiatur. If you're telling me that really they should have been eaten and it was just left over, so then hainu nicer, it's already included when we said nicer in that list. Ele gide tzavar must be it's the inedible hard gidin in the neck that you don't ever eat. And as Rashi says, that's why it got listed together with bones, because it's not edible. But ila basar ninhu lishdinhu. But if it's not edible, then it never has a chiyuv to burn in the first place. Why do you have to burn it? Because only the edible meat becomes nicer. The inedible parts you just toss. V'yomer Rav Chizda le'nitzracha ele legid ha nashe. We're not talking about these sinews in the neck. We're talking about the gid ha nashe. Ve'alibid Rabbi Yehuda da'amrei nanayig ele ba'achas. According to Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, the gid ha nashe is only on one of the gidin. So Rav Chizda, that's what we're talking about when we say the gid. Now let's try to understand Rav Chizda. If you're telling me Rabbi Yehuda is mesupik, which one of these two gidin is usr? Since one of them is mutter, you can't eat either because you're mesupik which one is the right one, and therefore you have to burn both of them. But let's say according to Rabbi Yehuda, the gid anasha is vadai, the right thigh gid. So then why does the Mishnah say they have to be burned? Dehetera lechle, the mutter one should be eaten, and de isur l'shadya, and the usr one just discard it. So from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda tells us he got to burn it, must be he's mesupik about which one is the usr one and which one is the mutter one. Omer of Ika bar Chanina, really, I'll tell you, Rabbi Yehuda knows for a fact that it's the right gid hanasha. And then in a chanami, normally you would taka eat the left one and you would throw away the right one. But v'hachabamayaskinah kishahukru ulubasayif nisarvu. So I don't know which one of these two gidin is from the right or from the left. So since one of them is roy lachila, but you can't practically eat either of them, you gotta burn them both. Moving over to Tamid Aleph, Rav Ashi Amar le'nitzracha el l'shamnai. When we're talking about the gid in that Mishnah Psachim, we weren't talking about the gid hanasha, but rather the shamein, the fat around the gid hanasha. De Tanya, because the Brisa says shamnai is mutter. The Yisrael kedoshim no gaboy yisr. Klal Yisrael is makbid not to eat it, but it batzim is really mutter. So since min haTorah it's mutter, but there's only a midig not to eat it, that's why you burn it on the 16th of Nisan. Ravina Amar le'nitzracha el l'chid Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. It's talking about a different kind of gid, specifically like Shitas Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. De Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Shnei gidin hein. There's actually two gidin that run through the thigh. Pnimi samuch lo etzem. The inner one, which is closer to the bone, is asur v'chayav and alav. That's the real lav, and that you're chayav min haTorah and you get malchus. But chitzain samuch lebasar, the outer one, which is closer to the meat, to the outside of the flesh, asur ve'ein chayav and alav. It's only an isur derabanan. So since the outer one is mutter min haTorah, but midrabanan you practically can't eat it, that's why you burn it on the 16th. So the Mishnah has no shaychus to real gid hanasha in the conventional sense. Tashma. Let's try again from the Mishnah coming up. Achal mizeh kazayis, mizeh kazayis. Let's say you had a kazayis of gid hanasha from the right thigh, and also another kazayis from the gid hanasha of the left thigh. It's not talking about repeating the same kazayis, but both legs. So the halach is if you eat a kazayis from each, you get seifik shemanim, you get 2 sets of malchus. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer ena seifik ela arboim, you only get 40. Okay. So iyamar bishleim and mifsha pshita le shapir. If you're telling me that Rabbi Yehuda holds the right one is vadai going to get malchus, and the left one is vadai mutter, that's why you're going to get 1 set of malchus. But eli iyamar tzfuki masafkale. Let's say Rabbi Yehuda says you're only going to do the right one, may safek. So havile hasra safek. When you come to get the hasra, it's always a hasra safek because you don't know for sure that this is the lav of the Torah. Sure, the guy definitely did a lav because he ate both kizesim. But you can't say b'vadayis that when he did the avera, that was the Isser min HaTorah, because it's a suffix according to this tzad, and therefore it is going to be Hasra suffix. V'shamina le'ler Rabbi Yehuda do'amar Hasra suffix loishme Hasra. De Tanya hika ezeh v'chazer hika ezeh, the classic case of the guy who hits his father and was suffix who his actual father is, or kila les ezeh v'chazer v'kila ezeh hika shneim b'basachas, I should kill shneim b'basachas chayiv. He's going to be mechuyev misa, but Rabbi Yehuda omer b'basachas chayiv b'bezacher zeh is potter because it's a Hasra suffix. So l'cher you have a raya that Rabbi Yehuda holds. It's going to be b'teiras vadai, to which the Gemara says is nishkein raya because hay Tana savar laki idach Tana de Rabbi Yehuda. This Tana who learned the Mishnah learns like the other Tana who had a different version of Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar Hasra suffix ishmei Hasra. So even if Rabbi Yehuda is mesupik, he'll still say you're going to get one set of Malchus. And did Tanya, I'll show you this other Tana that holds Rabbi Yehuda holds Hasra suffix is Shma Hasra, because the pasuk says leisa sir mimenu ad biker v'gaimer. Bo hakasav litan asay acher leisa asay. Why does the Torah give you the asay after the leisa asay? Loimer she'ain like an love to say you don't get Malchus. Div Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yaakov Eimer loimen Hashem uzeh elam mishum dehavle lav shein by Maisa v'chol lav shein by Maisa ain like an love. But what do we see from Rabbi Yehuda? That if not for the fact that the Torah gave you the asay afterwards, you would taka get Malchus, even though it's only Hasra suffix. Vaistais, according to this version of Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, Hasra suffix is Shma Hasra. So we're still looking for a raya one way or the other about Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. Let's try again. Tashema. Let's bring a raya from this brisa. Ochel shnei gidin mishtei yerechos mishtei behemais. Now we're talking about two different animals, and you ate two different gid hanoshes from each one of the respective right and left thighs. So the halach is soifik shmainim, but Rabbi Yehuda Eimer eino soifik ela arboim. Now midikamer shtei yerechos mishtei behemais. From the fact that we're specifically talking about two different animals, pshita de tarvayo liisura must be we're talking about where both of these gid hanoshes were usher. In other words, that they came from that same side of the animal, meaning that tzad ha'isr. Ulu Rabbi Yehuda itzrich, and the reason for this seemingly pashut halacha, because we're trying to show the chiddush and shitas Rabbi Yehuda that even though it came from two different animals, hence two lavim, Rabbi Yehuda still holds you're going to get one set of malchus, and that would be the chiddush and shitas Rabbi Yehuda. But if Rabbi Yehuda is mesupik about which one is usher, he couldn't give you malchus at all. So shma mina mefshet pitale must be that it's pashut to Rabbi Yehuda that you're going to get malchus for the right one, and the Gemara's maskim shma mina. Now getting back to this idea of the brisa, if you're telling me that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's vadai the right gid hanosha that's usher, so maisa figar boim v'sulei. So why lamaisa do you only get one set of malchus? L'cher you ate from two different animals, two right-sided gid hanoshes, so lilki shmayim you should get two sets of malchus. Hochama mayaskin, and what's the case we're talking about? Going to less by kizayis. Each individual gid hanosha didn't have a kizayis of a shear. Together they're mitzdarif to one shear. So Rabbi Yehuda holds you're only chayiv one set of malchus because you have to eat a kizayis. But the Tanakama holds that if you eat the entire gid hanosha, you're chayiv for malchus even though it's less than a kizayis. And as Rashi says, because of the halacha of beria, it's choshev, the whole gid hanosha, even though it's pachas mikizayis. And therefore that's why the Tanakama is going to hold you're going to get two sets of malchus. De Tanya, as the Brisa says, Achlei ve'ein by kizayis, chayev, but Rabbi Yehuda Eimer ad sheyeh by kizayis. All right, so now our Gemara is very satisfied. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's b'teiras vadai that the right gid hanosha is the one that's also min ha-Torah. V'taima mai, but give me a mucker. How do you know it's the right one versus the left one? Omer Rava, Omar Kro ha-yorech, the thigh. So it sounds like hamiyumenes shibayorech. It's the more choshev one of the two thighs, which is going to be the right one. Okay, but that's Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, v'Rabbanan, and according to the Rabbanan who don't seem to darshan that way, what do they do with the hayorech? Hahuda pashla yisur b'kuli yorech. According to the way the Rabbanan understand this, it's that the gid hanosha goes through the whole thigh. So it helps define which one of the two gidin we're talking about. Levhuka chitza and delay, as we mentioned, there's an outer one, and that's not the aser dika one, at least not aser min ha-Torah. For Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Omar Kra b'he'ovkai imai, that the Malach, when he hit Yaakov Avinu and dislocated his thigh, he wrestled with him. That's the lashon of Behe Akvai. So because it's a wrestling technique, so the way you wrestle it is you grab the other guy and your chayvek, which is a lashon of embracing him, and since your right hand is wrapping around him, you're going to grab the right thigh from behind. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Omar Ka'ovid Ka'chavim Nidmalei, the Malach, when he was fighting with Yaakov, he made himself look like a guy, and therefore Yaakov would stand on the left side of the Malach. What's that about? The Omer Mar Yisrael Shenitpalei Ovid Ka'chavim Baderech. If a yid finds himself alongside of a guy on the road, Taiflei Liyamina, the yid should keep the guy on his right side, because this way if the guy makes a move and tries to draw his weapon, the yid is ready there with his right hand to use his Krav Maga and take him down. Rav Shmuel bar Acha Kamei Rav Papa Mishmei Rav bar Ula Omar Kitalmud Chacham Nidmalei. You could just imagine the darshanas on this kind of chazalan, that the Sar Shel Esav appeared to Yaakov as a Talmud Chacham, and therefore Yaakov Avinu was going to give him kavod and put himself on the left side of the Malach. Do'omer Mar, Hamahalech Liyamin Rabbi, if you walk on the right side of your Rebbe, Harei Zebur. As Rashi says, it's not derech eretz. V'Rabbanan, and according to Shitas Rabbanan, that both Gid HaNoshas are going to be usher. How did they understand what happened there with Yaakov and the Sar Shel Esav? Me'achure osa v'nasheh b'tarvayu. They understand the story that the Malach sucker punched Yaakov from behind, and therefore knocked out both the right and left Gidin at the same time. V'Rabbanan, hi behe'ovkai imai, my darshi bey. Where's the wrestling drasha that the Rabbanan are going to make, because they don't seem to be using it? Miboyle l'chidach Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Diyomer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi malamed shehelu avak me'ragleisam ad kisei hakavod. They were kicking up a lot of dust, and it went all the way up to the kisei hakavod. And of course, this is a Maisa Avesim and Labanim about what's going to happen with the Gullus and Klal Yisrael's children, and the Avak Meragleisam, which is a reference to the many trials and tribulations of Klal Yisrael that would happen for the days to come. Ksiv hacha behe avkai imai, and likewise, as it also says in the first parak of Nachum, Ksiv hasam va'anon avak raglov. Yomer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, lama nikra shmai gid ha-nasha, shenosha mimkaimai, because it was nasha, it moved from its place, va'allah, and went up. V'cheinu oimer, noshasa gvurasam hayu l'noshim. That their strength went away, and they became weaker like noshim. So apparently things shifted and moved. Omar Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Chanina. My dichsiv, what's the pshat in pasuk? Dovar sholach Hashem b'Yakov and nafal b'Yisrael. Dovar sholach b'Yakov, that Hashem sent something in Yaakov's Gid HaNosha, which Hashem had done himself. V'nafal b'Yisrael, shepashat Yisur b'chol Yisrael. Based on this, there's an Isur of Gid HaNosha for all of Klal Yisrael. V'Omar Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Chanina. My dichsiv, v'toivach tevach v'hochein, that Yosef said to his servants to bring the geshachten of flesh for his brothers. So tevach tevach, when he told them to bring it geshachten, he was telling them to make sure that it should be geshachten properly, and therefore para lohen beis hashchita, he showed them that it was geshachten properly. V'hachein, and to prepare it, toil Gid HaNosha bifneim. That's a reference to taking out the Gid HaNosha in front of them to see that he's being careful to show that it was kosher. Which is interesting because at this point, Yosef hasn't given himself away to his brothers that he is Yosef. But I should just point out the very important Rashi over here about parlem beis hashchita, lefisha b'nei Yaakov, shaimrei mitzvahs hayu. They kept the mitzvahs. The afal pi shalei nitna Torah, mekubolin hayu me'aveisehem. Now remember, according to the Parshas Drachim, Yosef held they had a din b'nei Noach, but the Shiftei believed that they had a din Yisrael. So I didn't see anybody talk about this, but perhaps Yosef was being careful not to be machshel them lishitasam, and that's why he was being sensitive to the fact that they would be makbid on hilchos shechita. And now the Gemara fears ice. Commando Omar Gid HaNosha ne'asar lebnei Noach. The Gemara is now suggesting that if the isser of Gid HaNosha is for everybody, that's why Yosef would be careful to take out the Gid HaNosha. And Taisus wants to know maybe Yosef was only taking it away because he was being makbid on their shmiras mitzvahs and showing them that he cares, not because of his own chiyuv of Gid HaNosha. Maybe that Parshas Drachim can help over here also. That Yosef didn't want to tip his hat that he knew that they were makbid on shmiras mitzvahs. Al kol panim, let's get back into the famous chazalin of the story. Much of this is a chazar of the Rashis in Parshas Vayishlach. The pasuk says, "Vayivasar Yaakov levadai," that Yaakov Avinu was all alone. Why was he all alone? Where was his family? Omer Rebbe Lazar, shenishtair al pachim ketanim. He stayed behind because he wanted to get the pachim ketanim, the small kalim, mikan letzadikim shechovev aleihem memainim yoser migufam. Which obviously doesn't mean that tzadikim look at money as more valuable than life, but they recognize the value that if Hashem gave me this money, I'm supposed to use it, I'm supposed to have it, and therefore there's a chashivus even for the pachim ketanim. And that might be in a broader sense, but the Gemara just says v'chol kach lama lefisha ein poshin yidheim begezel. The things that tzadikim have are more chashiv because they came in more of a kosher way. Vayter vayyeovek ish imay ad alois shachar. They fought until the morning. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak mikan the Talmud Chacham shel yetze yechidi b'layla. Talmud Chacham shouldn't go out alone at night because Yaakov Avinu was alone and he got hurt. Rabbi Abba bar Kahana Omar mehacha. We know that from the following. Turning over Talmud Beis, hine hu zaira es geirin hasairim, that Boaz wouldn't come home until after the night because he wouldn't go out at nighttime by himself. Rabbi Avo Omer mehacha vayashkem Avram ba'bayker v'yechavesh es v'geimer. That Avram Avinu got up in the morning and he was chavesh. Rashi learns it's going to be the Chamayrei. Taisus says it's a different pasuk, but you see that he didn't want to travel at night. He wanted to travel by day. V'Rabbanan Amri mehacha lechno re'ei es shleimachecha ve'es shleim v'geimer. That Yaakov Avinu said to Yosef, go and check on your brothers, and that was by day because the pasuk says re'ei, you got to see it. And we're assuming Yosef HaTzadik didn't have night vision goggles. Rav Omer mehacha v'yizrach le'ashemesh, that the sun rose for Yaakov Avinu. Omer Rabbi Akiva sha'alti es Rabbi Gamliel v'es Rabbi Yeshua be'itlis shel ima'um. I asked Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua in the marketplace sheholchu likach behema lemishta b'nei shel Rabbi Gamliel, because they were doing the shopping for the chasana. And the Gemara makes the point to show that even when they were doing their shopping, they were talking and learning. Ksiv vayizrach loy hashemesh v'chi shemesh loy levad zarcha, that the sun was rising for him. What, it only rose for him? V'alei l'chol olam zarcha. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak shemesh haba ba'avurai. The sun had already set earlier because of him, and now zarcha ba'avurai. Now it got up for him for his tayelis in Peniel. Dichsiv vayitze Yaakov bi Beersheva v'yolech Harana. Uchsiv vayivgav ha'makim. So one pasuk seems to say that Yaakov went all the way to Haran, but the other pasuk says it was based on that he spent the night. So which one was it? So kimot l'Haran Omar Is it possible I went to a place where my avos have daven vanila ispalalti? So kad yoav daiti lemahadar. So as soon as he wanted to go back to Eretz Yisrael and daven at Beis El, kofza le'ara, the ground between Charan and Beis El got smaller. There was a kafitzas haderech miyad vayivga b'makom, and that's why he davened in Beis El. Kad tzolei boy lemahadar. Once he finished davening, he wanted to go back to Charan. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tzaddik zeh bo lebeis miloini v'yifter b'leilina. This tzaddik has come to my resting place, which is ultimately going to be where the Beis HaMikdash has, and he's not going to stay here for the night. No. Miyad bo Hashemesh. Hashem made a nace, and the sun set, requiring Yaakov to spend the night right there. So because of this business with the sun, there's an interesting nitziv, because we know there's a machlekes of tefillas arvis rishus or tefillas arvis chayva. And there's another machlekes, whether it's keneged, karbonis, or avos tiknem. So while the Gemara doesn't put those two machlekuyes together, Rashi in Masechta Shabbos on Daf Yud says that the reason why there's a difference between Shachar and Mincha, which are Vadai Chayva, and Ma'ariv, which might be a Rishus, because it might be that they're connected Karbonis Tiknim, and the Karban Tama didn't happen at night. But the Netziv in the Shiltas, in Shilta Ches, suggests that Yaakov Avinu, when he came to daven Ma'ariv, the reason why Tfilas Ma'ariv is different than Tfilas Mincha and Shachar is klape the potential Chiyav, it's because he really wasn't trying to daven Ma'ariv. He wanted to daven Mincha, but there was a nace that the sun set early. So it's hard to make that the Kvias of Ma'ariv, when the intention really would have been, under normal circumstances, to be davening the Mincha. Vayter Ksiv Vayikach me Avnei Amokim, that Yaakov Avinu took all the stones and put them around his head. Uchsiv Vayikach es ha'even, the Lashon Yachid. So what's going on? So Rabbi Yitzchak, famous Chazal, Malamish, and Skabsu Kol Eisen Avanim L'Mokom Echad, all the rocks gathered together. V'cholachas v'achas emeres, Allah yoniach tzadik zeh reishay. Let him lay his head on me. That's what each rock said. So Tana, V'kulan, Nivlu, Ba'achas, they all became one big rock. V'yachaloim, V'hine Sulam Mutzav Arza. That Yaakov had a chaloim, and the ladder was on the ground, and the top of it was in the Shomayim, and the Malachim were going up and down, etc. So Tana, we learned in the Brisa, Kama Rachbay Shal Sulam, how wide was the ladder? Shmeinas Alafim Parsais, 8,000 Parsais, which if you do the math, which I certainly did not, it would be 64 million amas, or 24,000 miles, pretty wide. Dichsev v'hine malachi alekim oilim v'yardim bay. Oilim is shnayim, that means there are two malachim that were side by side. V'yardim is shnayim, and two are going down side by side. V'chipogu b'hadi adadi havelu arba, and therefore, at the point where they would meet each other and passing each other, there were four across on the ladder. Uchsev be b'malach, and it says l'gabi malach that v'givyosai ketarshish, that its body is like the sea of Tarshish. Ugamirium, we have a Messiah that the Tarshish tre alfe parse have, it's 2,000 parsois wide. Hence we get the cheshbon we had said. Tana, we learned in the Brisa. Oilinu mistaklin b'dyukna shel maila. The Malachim looked at the image of Yaakov. This is all based on the vision of the Meiser Merkava that Yecheskel Hanavi had. V'yardenu mistaklin b'dyukna shel mata, and they looked down at the image of Yaakov below. Bo l'sakune, they became jealous and they wanted to hurt Yaakov. Miyad v'hine Hashem nitzav. All love that Hashem stood to protect Yaakov from the Malachim. Whatever all this means. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, ilmole mikra kosev ef shelo. You couldn't say such a thing. It's because ka'adim shemein nefal b'nai. It's making Hashem very human-like. It's protecting his son, like a parent that protects his child from the heat and is fanning him. Then the pasuk says, Ha'aretz asher ata sheichev aleha v'gomer, that I'm going to give this land to your eneklech. My Ravusei. What's so great about this? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Alamid shekifla kadosh baruch hu lechol Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem folded up the whole Eretz Yisrael v'inicha tachas Yaakov Avinu and put it under Yaakov. Shetei neicha likovesh lebonav. In order to make it easier that the Gans Eretz Yisrael should be like a Dalad Amis that his eneklech should be able to capture. V'yomer shalcheni ki ola hashachar. That after Yaakov Avinu was able to overcome the Sar Shel Esav, it said, you got to send me away because the sun came up. Amar lo, Yaakov Avinu said to him, Ganavata, a kavyustas ata, shemisyar min hashachar. What are you, a thief or a kavyustas? Either a kidnapper or a gambler. I would have added to this, maybe he's a vampire. But why are you afraid of the morning? So Amar lo, the Malach says to Yaakov, Malachani umiyoyim shenivraisi lehigias mani lemer shira ad achshav. From the day I was created, Zok the Malach, I haven't had the chance to sing Shira until now. And for whatever reason, this is the time now I have to say Shira. Misayeh leila Rav Chanan el Omer Rav, the Omer Rav Chanan el Omer Rav, Sholosh Kitas Shel Malachi Asharis Oimrois Shira B'chol Yom. There are three groups that are saying Shira on each day. Achas Emeres Kadosh, V'achas Emeres Kadosh, V'achas Emeres Kadosh Hashem Tzvakos. All right, we're going to stop here by the Mesaveh, and Mitzvah Hashem will pick it up from here tomorrow.